Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
So, welcome to this new session of the European Alliance Against Coronavirus. As always, we need to say that this session is being recorded and that if you remain with us, you are accepting that and you are accepting also that we will share the video recording in the channels of the European Cluster Alliance and the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So, thank you for joining us, especially to the speakers, okay, to Marek and to Eva. I see that Eva is here also, and we expect to have with us Mark Chams very soon. I see that Frank Toussaint has also joining us. So, bonjour, Frank. Hello. So we will speak today about a project, an initiative, a prototype that we are developing in collaboration with the with TIBER, the Council of Bioregions, and the European Commission for sure, that focus the activity on the creation of a prototype for the smart mapping of resources in the fight against pandemic. And to present it, we have with us Marek Schreier, as you know, head of unit of the cluster team. Is that right, Marek? Sorry?
Team
leader.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, team leader, sorry. And Eva Revilla. Okay, so Marek, the floor is yours.
Yes, I think the people are joining. So because 8:30, you know, we once a week when we had it every day, then people had it, you know. But once a week, I see that still people are joining. So let me just introduce the context slowly. Then later we go to the details. The fact that we had all this COVID-19, as you know, showed the importance of supply chains, connections, networks, and we had disruptions. And this is exactly how this network was very much created and helped in the production during of masks or dealing with any shortages we had. So basically, then this was as well the reason why in updated industrial policy, which we published this year, there's lots of dedicated to dependency, the European dependency. And at the same time, we had all this vaccine production story that we wanted to have it as soon as possible, and ramp up of production very quickly needed to be boosted, and we had worked in the spring on this, and luckily we managed. So we have enough capacity of vaccines. We had the matchmaking event in March where cluster community helped a lot. Then we had now we are moving into the phase where we want to manufacture COVID-19 therapeutics. So identifying and select and then ramping up or enabling the production as soon as possible of any COVID-19 therapeutics. And that for this reason we organized the matchmaking on 13th of July. And we will organize the matchmaking for this community as well in December, where we will know already the selected EU COVID-19 therapeutics, which right now European Medical Agency together with Sante, our colleagues from DG Sante, are working for. So in this context as well, you might know this week will be published the package on the European Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Authority, so-called HERA, and we thought here together with after organizing all these events that what is extremely important is the agility and data capacity processing and data knowledge and the fact that you know where, who produces what, when, and how we can ramp up depending on the shortages. What we find here that in this group there is an enormous capacity. On one hand, ICT knowledge, so all these elements which people who know ICT can bring on board, including artificial intelligence, including the preparation of building the model. We have the capacity of people who know biology, biotechnology. If we combine it all, knowing as well the people who are working on supply chains in the specific field of vaccines or therapeutics, that we can come up with an attempt to suggest the model, dynamic model, which can be predictive. But that's why we came up with the idea to for this group to propose this kind of prototype, which could as well inspire maybe further later building the model, which could be enhanced, but build a prototype which could give us as well the information what are ICT capabilities, latest state-of-the-art capabilities which we can use, as well as the knowledge of the market, what kind of data actually would be needed from the market, from the single players, from single companies, from researchers, so that we identify data gaps, or we identify what kind of structure of data need to be in order this kind of predictive and dynamic model can work. This is of course not going to be exhaustive, but I think this is going to be very well informing us, European Commission, policymakers working on this, future HERA, what kind of model we want to look forward. We want to think in 21st century, so that we can have a model which would help us to identify shortages in the supply chain, but as well to be able to detect any risks, be it in disruptions, short disruptions, or mid-long-term vulnerabilities of the supply chains. So we want to use this collective group to collective knowledge to inspire and to identify things which are feasible, possible, or if with some efforts could be done. So this is what we thought, and concretely on objective of this particular strand, I would like Eva to share. Eva?
Thank you very much, Marek. I think I only have to complement a little bit what Marek just said. The objective of this project is really to explore what is currently feasible to create a smart map of the supply chains. We have to take this project also as an opportunity to really see which data is absolutely necessary for this to be operational, but maybe this data is not available, and why it's not available. Because we know that the lack of data will have an impact in the functionalities of the model. The last message that I want to pass is that in this project we also see that how important it will be to document very carefully any barriers to the development of this prototype. We are breaking ground, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion and to the next weeks. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Eva. Marek. Okay, so going deeper, I will introduce Mark de Champs, as you know, president of the Cyber Network, okay, the Council of Bioregions. Thank you. Bonjour, Mark.
Hi, good morning.
And if we can go for the next slide, Nina. So the floor is yours, Mark. Will you introduce to?
My pleasure, Antonio. So as it was nicely introduced by Eva and Marek, the idea is to create a model prototype of a smart dynamic map for the detection as soon as possible, early detection, I would say, of potential disruptions in the supply chains and rapid mobilization of the community we created with a matchmaking event for vaccines and therapeutics in the context of COVID-19 and beyond now. But the idea is really to be alerted as soon as possible when a potential problem will happen, to interpret this problem and to see immediately whether with the prototype, actually, you will comment later on from an IT perspective, Antonio, we will be able to provide also alternative solutions to avoid this disruption. Because the idea is not to go up to the end of the value chain and to check whether we still have goods for and drugs and other medicines for the patient or not. It's really about looking for the early stage of the production to avoid these disruptions. Next slide, Tina. Yeah, and that's the reason why we discussed internally, and we wanted to go for a dual approach. A dual approach with, on one hand, the smart map with the decision support system, which is based on, as it was said by Marek and Eva, on operational data, which could alert us of a potential risk of disruption. That's the data analysis. That's what we are going to gather in terms of data, potentially through custom data, through signals from experts, through evolution of the orders and delivery, so lead time, level of stock, and so on, and also to provide potential solutions thanks to the EU survey and the matchmaking events, again, the database created at this occasion. So it will be a mix of data analysis, artificial intelligence, looking to what the moves are and whether they are going or not in the right direction. So alerting a network of experts, having the ability from a qualitative point of view and quantitative point of view to interpret this alert, and also to validate potential alternative suppliers we could already, thanks to the prototype, identify to avoid this disruption. So this is the concept. This is the idea. So the next slide, Nina. And so before handing over to Antonio for the technical part of this development, the idea is really to get an alert system also at the level of the experts. So today, actually, what we are going to do is to study the feasibility to establish a watch of whistleblowers networks of a procurement manager or demand manager or supply manager in important CMO, CDMO, potentially also production facilities from big pharma across the European Union, and also across all the technologies, because we are looking to what is really necessary for the patients. It might still be small molecules. We all heard about dexamethasone and the important role dexamethasone played to try to avoid or limit the inflammation for the hospitalized patient during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we need also biologics, because vaccines are biologics, monoclonal antibodies in full development for the treatment are biologics. Even heparin to avoid the blood clotting is a biologic. So we need to look to all the technologies. And if you take, for instance, mRNA, messenger RNA vaccines, you need to have a coating for this mRNA because the half-life is very short, 30 minutes. And so lipid nanoparticles exist. But if you have a disruption in the supply of lipid nanoparticle, even before the assembly of this lipid nanoparticles, there you will be in a very bad position to produce mRNA vaccines, for instance. So we are looking to technologies, we are looking to all the CMO, CDMOs, the production unit in the European Union, and try to check the feasibility of having this network in place, and at least in the next coming weeks to create a pilot of participating companies to test the concept, to assess the feasibility and the automation of the process. So what will come up from the prototype? Is it interpretable or not? Or is it the right set of data? Are these data really operational? And also draw recommendation at the end of this phase for the next phase of this project. I'm currently in contact with big companies. I had already 2 discussion with high-level, let's say, manager of 2 of them, and they clearly demonstrated an interest to take part of this pilot. So the next slide, please, Nina. So the objective of this network, as I mentioned already, is to immediately, on their side also, to immediately alert on any disruption of the key supplies they need actually for the production of bioproducts, vaccines, and other type of product, but critical products. To cross-check and validate also what is coming from the prototype, because we might see some movement which are not relevant, but we might see some little movement which might have a very big impact on the production. So we need to have this qualitative interpretation. And also, we need to define also what is a real alert and validate the criteria we would like to use. I put it some example on the slide, which are completely tentative. The lead time for a product. I heard from one of the company that for a simple protein and chromatography column, so that's a little bubble which are very specific to a specific protein for the purification, lead time is now 9 months. So it means that all the production is delayed. Alors, what are we taking? A lead time which is moving to normal plus minus 4 weeks, or plus 4 weeks in the negative aspect, or minus 4 weeks for a positive aspect for recovery, or a level of stock within the CMO/CDMO decreasing to less than 4 weeks, let's say reagents and so on available for the productions, meaning that they are starting to be in difficulty. We will look also to the geographical origin of the disruption and see whether we could find alternatives or not, and alternatives hopefully from the European Union to reinforce, strengthen the resilience of Europe. But if not, from which geography can we find, let's say, solution? So different elements we are going to discuss with the pilot, and then the question will be, what is the benefit for the companies? Because they will give some time of their procurement manager or supply chain manager to this project. But in my view, the benefits are several. First of all, they will be quickly informed of the alert coming from the prototype. So it means for the production across the EU, but also for their own production. So it is potentially very important for them too. They will share the potential implication within a group and not looking, let's say, solely its own aspect of the problem in one company only. Here they will have the possibility to share the implication and also to look together with the potential alternative for the European supply and for them as well. And definitely, I think that's important for some companies to understand that they will contribute to solving problem or potential supply issues problem at company, as I mentioned before, at company level, but at European level, and for the wealth of the European citizen. And furthermore, they will be exposed to the future ERA agency and to the European Commission. So for some companies, that's really an added value to be in the running and to contribute very actively to the building of this new upcoming ERA agency. Potentially, we will have also other benefits I didn't identify yet, but we will discuss with the pilot in the coming weeks. And over to you, Antonio.
Thank you very much, Mark. I will say that most probably some of those companies could benefit if they are affected by the disruption. So that will be a direct benefit if we could help them not to suffer those possible disruptions. No, so
that's both ways, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We need to think, in my opinion, about this project not only in terms of on short term, So speaking out vaccines and therapeutics for COVID, but as a tool for any future alert or danger, okay, here at the European level. So I would say that is critical for our resilience as industry here in Europe. And I think also that, and that's why we are involved and you are here, okay? I think that clusters can be a key actor on this, okay? Most of you are involved with your companies, with your members on the evolution of advanced systems for them to better organize their supply chains and their activities. So most probably you can contribute to this prototype and to the future system. That is what we are defending at the European level. That is why we are contributing to the works of the task force. And I think that is why we were able to have good results from the service that we deliver. We published it beginning this year. So how can you contribute? That is the question for today. Okay, how do you see the project? What kind of suggestions could you provide us today? Okay, and or direct involvement, okay, in the design of the prototype. Okay, it would be wonderful if we could count with your knowledge, your expert knowledge on how to map this that at the end we are speaking about a kind of supply chain management system, okay, forecasting, and if you want also creating scenarios, okay. How can you help us in the development, in the definition, and perhaps most probably also in the implementation of that future network? That is the question for today. So now the floor is open. I see Aurora has been commenting.
Yeah, interesting comment, if I may, Antonio. So thank you, Aurora. For your information, we are also closely collaborating with an association called BSMA Europe, which stands for Biosupply Chains Management Europe, where actually these guys actually have access already to a lot of information, and they have a strong network. And so exactly what you say, they can look to transportation difficulties, they can raise quite a lot of information. They could potentially also open some database which could be of interest for any raw materials or any let's say potential disruption. And to your point also, if the cost of the transportation or cost of the supplies is increasing, that's really something we are going to check as well, because it might be, to your point, very not optimal side effect, I would say.
Thank you. Horst, I would like to hear your ideas. Welcome, Horst.
Which one? Yes, good morning, everybody. I think all this is a very, very good endeavor. Yeah, I appreciate all the work that was done here. Hi, Mark. Nice to see you. Well, I think one of the major reasons why I would say it's so important because yesterday we heard, was on another conference, we heard that from a representative from BioNTech, so that when they want to produce a new vaccine, it only takes them 6 weeks to, let's say, to design the vaccine to make it ready. But then to get it produced, that's the big bottleneck. And I think that's where we have to work on, and that's where we have to get prepared. So the research technologies and the initial developing technologies, they are in place, not only with BioNTech, but I think with many other companies. And that's, I think, so important that we have here many opportunities for production facilities. So I think that's absolutely important, and there we have to do something. And there also think, being also a member of a biotech cluster, that we should support, let's say, these maps that we have, and that we can react very quickly if something new is happening, that we can really support these companies, and it can be other ones. Yeah, I also see here, for example, in Munich, we have a startup company which is working on second or third generation messenger RNA vaccines, etc. And I think we should continue working on that. That's really important.
Thank you, Horst. Yeah, definitely, they can develop very quickly the new design of the vaccines. However, as they start the production, it takes time, depending on the type of production they have for mRNA, still on plasmid DNA, or more and more on synthetic biology. It could take quite a long of time. And on top of that, you need the lipid nanoparticle coating.
Let me add perhaps one more thing. What turned out to be to become difficult as well is, of course, to have the different components ready. We should be aware of that as well. So it's nice to have production facilities, but if we do not have the compounds to do the productions, that might be another problem, especially for these sophisticated formulations that we have with the messenger RNA vaccines. So I think we are very well equipped because we could develop that over the past 30 or even more years when it comes to the classical biologics, let's say antibodies and other protein-based molecules. But with these new types, I strongly hope, let's say, that our European industry is well equipped for that. We have, I think, in different countries these possibilities, but we have to be sure that there is enough in place. And for that purpose, I think it would be also necessary, perhaps, to support through the support of the governments of the different states here in Europe, that this is also secured, so that we have a kind of barter activity. Or when we look to the United States, for example, they are now getting at least partly prepared for a possible new pandemic, so that there are some things in place, and that has to be coordinated. That all compounds are necessary, because I'm afraid that it will. Well, hopefully this pandemic will be over as soon as possible, of course, and then I'm afraid we are falling back to our old habits and do not think anymore. And for that purpose, and I think that's the job also of the governments, that they take care of that, like it was in the ongoing pandemic here. For example, in Germany, we had, let's say, a detailed plan how to react in a pandemic. It was even discussed several years ago in the German parliament, and was said there, wonderful, we have a plan, but nobody used it then at the end of the day. And there we also need, besides of all that what we are talking about now, that we have a strategic tool that we can put in place, so that we can act quickly, and that it won't take so long anymore. Although we were extremely fast, yeah, our companies were extremely fast, our scientists were extremely fast, but that there should be no hindrance through lack of compounds, etc. So they have to sit on the shelf as well, and we have to take care of that. Thank you.
I think that the tool that you are referring to is HERA, no? I think, and it makes sense for us to collaborate in the creation of the HERA design and activities, if possible, no?
Yeah.
Horst, do you think that your members could collaborate with the kind of project that we are proposing? does it will make sense for them?
I think so. Yeah. Well, of course, biotech companies are struggling these days. So there are a few winners, but there are, I would say, also quite some losers. Yeah. So the pandemic, or let's say the economic difficulties are also present with them. But if we find good tools so that there is a support, and I'm pretty much sure, because there is this, yeah, I could even say enthusiasm to work on that. Yesterday, for example, I had the chance to give 3 awards to 3 German biotech companies who got engaged in developing not vaccines but therapies. I think you and others might be aware that we have now, let's say, quite substantial support of the state of Bavaria, and especially of the Federal Republic of Germany, to support the development of therapeutical treatments against COVID-19. And you know, up to now, I think it's altogether 14 companies that are being supported, and the amounts they are receiving is quite something. So these 14 companies, 13 or 14, I do not know the exact number, they will receive 100 million altogether. So on the average, it's 7 to 8 million, and I know that some of those companies will receive up to 14 or 15 million, really to get these important products, which are short-term products, so that let's say rapid treatments which might be available, innovative treatments, not only repurposing, which is okay if it works. Yeah, dexamethasone is a wonderful example. Never would have thought that such an old drug would work, but also some innovative treatments. And what I think is also extremely important, and I'm a little bit afraid that in this European HERA program, although it was written, I think even in chapter 1, we should try to develop also, let's say, preventive therapeutics, that we have the aspirin pill that can be used immediately if things like these are happening again. Fortunately, we have here in our German programs, let's say, also some efforts which go into this direction, which the idea is to inhibit specific steps in virus replication or other things, so which can be used rather early, really to prevent the outbreak of the disease in the single individuum. I think that's very important, and eventually it's a wonderful step also in the development of therapeutics, because as I have learned, there is no way to treat a virus infection. Now people are getting more interested and they come closer to that, and that's absolutely important. So as I told you, there are 100 million, well, 50 million from the state of Bavaria and 50 million from the Federal Republic are being spent on that. And fortunately, we have these nice programs now, these exemption programs, where, let's say, the companies have to well, they are happy to contribute from their own capital, but we could go away a little bit from the old rules that it has to be a 50% matching capital, went down eventually in some cases up to only 20%. So that makes it much easier for the companies. But in the next steps, when it comes to really phase 2 or phase 3, especially phase 3 trials, they will have to contribute more. But I'm convinced that they will find the money also from private shareholders to get that going. And then there is a new round also currently ongoing, another 40 million, which will be spent by the German Ministry of Research. And we also have this 300 million program, where also we had some winners. Not all of the money has been spent, only 150 million euros also for later stages, phase 3 trials, production, and bringing, let's say, the drug, the therapeutic treatment directly to the patient, so that also, let's say, that they get easy through the steps to get approval, that the approval process is partly financed through that. So altogether now, I think there are 300 million euros financial support in this therapeutic area on the market. And I can say that we can be happy that eventually, let's say, at least the German government could be convinced. And also I see the huge effort of the European Union through Ursula von der Leyen, who started this 70 or 90, I don't know exactly, 90 million program. So we are set with that. But also here in this case, it's important to have production facilities. What I've heard from those companies which are working in this area, they say it's more or less impossible to get their biologic products produced here in Europe. So everything is occupied, and you cannot do that. And especially then they tried to go, you have no chance to go to the United States, but then they went to East Asia. And there, for example, our friends from the United States occupied more or less all production facilities in Korea. So there was no possibility as well. So they were eventually forced, and I'm still now convinced that they will also get good production there in China. So many of these productions are now made in China, and there we also see this huge gap that we have with us in producing therapeutics. That's something we have predicted for many years, but we always could circumvent it because there was not this huge need. But now we see also this problem as well, and we do not need only production facilities for vaccines, but also for therapeutical products if they are on a biological basis. And there we have to become independent in Europe from the rest of the world. Not even offers of higher prices can help us, because the Americans can easily compete. They just make reservations for huge amounts of dollars, and then it's no access is possible of our European companies. Now I stop here.
Thank you. Also, just for your information, there are other type of initiatives in Europe to really try to support the development of the companies in the biomanufacturing field, because that's definitely something which was identified even before the COVID-19. So we don't have enough capacity in Europe. And when you are in a pandemic, definitely there you are in a full competition, and the big players are going first, that's for sure, because they are asking for high volumes, and the small players like small biotech are struggling to get slots from CMOs, CDMOs to have the clinical batch produced, because it's just a small quantity. So definitely we need to continue to push Europe to develop the policies in that field, and to really support the development of the CDMOs from a European perspective.
But this is an excellent point also for the map. No, we should be able to better know our capabilities in terms of, for example, production, and perhaps we could find potential capacities that we didn't know about, or we could planify how to improve them. Yeah, but
just one word about that, Antonio. On the 4th of October, CIBA, together with EITLs and EIT Manufacturing, will publish a biomanufacturing landscaping report we performed in several countries like Spain, France, Belgium, Netherlands, even the UK. It's not European Union. Germany and Scandinavian countries, and we will go beyond afterwards for the other countries, but we started where we have actually strong biomanufacturing capacities. And there you will find a lot of information about the capacity, the new technology, also the problem of looking for talents. It's not because you are building a factory that you have the talents and the lab and the technical people in the market to start working with your production capacities. So there are plenty of dimension on that. That's innovation, okay, but funding of innovation is an issue. Finding talents might be an issue, and also trying to look for synergies. And there are other initiatives all across Europe which are going to be let's say initiated and certainly announced on the 4th of October at LTech Innovation Days in Paris.
Let me perhaps also make another point which makes it difficult. I do not know if that is true also for the other European countries, but here in Germany, we follow the European rules for how much support can can a country, a state give, for example. And so whereas, let's say, in the United States and of course in China and Korea, no problem, these efforts to build these production facilities are extremely supported by the governments. Here with us, we have a problem. So here in Bavaria, we had a nice offer to build some production facility here, and the company was willing to come here from elsewhere. But they said, well, we need also some kind of support. Can you not provide us with some of your tax money? And that's extremely difficult according to our European rules. I realized that in some other countries, not in Germany, but other European countries, they have found ways to bring in some financial support. But in Germany, what they, in this case here in Bavaria, what they could offer, it would have been 170 million plant that was designed, and Bavaria, looking for all the possibilities, they said, well, we can only offer you 1.8 million. That is 1%. Yeah, that does not make sense. And so these efforts are stopped. If we do not find possibilities, and these are, well, it does not always have to be 170 million. You can build something perhaps at 50 million, but we need possibilities. Since this is a European need that we have, that these facilities, which are then run by private companies, that they are supported by that. There can be possibilities how to return the money somehow, well, made with the profits that are made at the end of the day, etc. But at the moment, at least in Germany, it's extremely difficult, because in Germany, as you know, we obey the rules exactly to each comma and point, etc. There might be one might find other ways in other countries, but with us it's impossible. And that's how we are now trying to solve these problems, because here we have trained people, we have also the office of those companies who have the expertise, but they say, well, we cannot do such an investment of 50 million by ourselves. We need some help, and even, let's say, 25% support would be possible. I have already started to find out which ways are possible, that we have here specific rules. But if somebody has an idea, please let me know. I think it's to the welfare of all of us that we have these facilities.
Actually, in the regions in Europe where the biomanufacturing is very strong, most of the time it is because also it is very supported by regional authorities, exactly to your point, Horst.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the floor open for other contributions. I will be very glad to hear other professionals on this area sharing your views. Please, don't hesitate to contribute. I see that we have Evie from HBO. I don't know if you pull.
Yeah, Antonio, if I may, for coming back to the essence of this meeting today on this mapping, this is something that this is going to be as well kind of creation of public good in the sense that, you know, at the corporate level, of firm level, you have quite a good mapping of your supply chains, and what are your inputs, your customers, upstream, downstream. The thing is to know after this exercise as well, to find out what are the feasibilities to have data connection to ERP or CRM of the companies. So eventually models that I mean the data of the companies. We understand there's data protection rules and so on, but what kind of data is feasible to have in such a model, for example? The other thing is about how to use this model for detection of any disruptions that might appear among the company's entities which are in this mapping. So if we have a situation where the raw materials is lacking, or we have the issue of transportation, the signal is given, and then the network can self-help each other without the public intervention. once the public interest. So this kind of elements could be very interesting to know. So we have quite good analysis of data available at the public. So from Eurostat, they are all very often late because the only gathering takes 2-3 years, and then processing and harmonization. While at company level you have data on the daily basis. The question is, if you want to have this predictive model, we want to use algorithm, we want to use artificial intelligence, this would be very knowledgeable for us very interesting for us to know all these elements. And even if, of course, we will not have this in this model data, but at least knowing what kind of data could be potentially available for the supply chains. And here I refer to colleagues who are working on supply chains in biologics, in biotechnology, to share with us this knowledge, what is feasible at corporate level, and what is feasible in network corporate level, and what could be feasible if they want to be very often, probably sometimes with in the network of companies which are competing with each other on some markets, but not but at the same time helping each other as the EU companies vis-a-vis global value chain. So I want to if you can give us some ideas on this, your feedback on this. Thank you.
So, what do you think? Who wants to share? No comments?
Maybe it will be that it's too ambitious, that we can have the network of companies working on the same market, competing on the same market to share data, or there must be a special role for the Commission as a neutral player for this. All this would be very good to have your feedback as people working on the market.
I can maybe comment in this case, if nobody is taking the microphone now. Actually, Marek said that's what we are going to look for. Network, we are working with Biosupply Chain Management Alliance, which is one of the perfect body we could find in Europe, actually, for having a network of companies sharing this type of issues. And sharing also some initiative existing somewhere, not always in Europe, but somewhere potentially in US and in other parts of the world where people are sharing information coming from ARP of their own ARP. Because what is confidential is the production process. What is not confidential is the supply. You could argue that by speaking about the supply, you can identify what might be the production process afterwards. That's maybe possible, and that's what we have to investigate with the companies. But again, what is the benefits compared to the risk? So today, and we heard with Horst that there are plenty of issues with regard to production timelines, even for small companies, but even for bigger companies like BioNTech. Supply issues, increase of the lead time, supplies coming from different origins outside the European Union. So we have actually, in my view, from a corporate perspective, at least if I take my own experience, quite a lot of advantage of sharing some elements with others in order to be able to see whether we are risking again a disruption in one of another part of the supply. And that way we can use what is existing and try to develop it. And that's the reason why we need first to get a pilot to test everything with the guys, and to check also the relevant data we need to put in the algorithm, in the prototype, to be really able to detect as soon as possible this type of things. So this is really what we would like to do with this first pilot phase. and hopefully we will end up or come up with a good recommendation at the end.
Here's Horst. I completely agree what you said, Mark. What I would also still add, perhaps, I think once we have identified the players and get them a little bit more known, I would suggest instead of having, let's say, well, and we can talk to each other, but what I would suggest to really have a meeting with physical presence where people could just meet, could exchange, and that perhaps even some kind of alliances are performed, and that one has an open discussion, a roundtable discussion, how we could do that. We have to, we are cluster managers, yeah? We cannot exactly say what the companies, what their needs are, under which conditions they would be willing to cooperate, also to share ideas. There could be new alliances formed, but if, for example, HERA, yeah, let's talk about HERA. If they could invite the players that we have identified here to a physical meeting in Brussels and have a wonderful roundtable discussion where people see each other, meet each other, and do something, and do it over 2 days. Now, yesterday, for example, I was on a meeting here, which one of the first ones was physical presence again, you know, and each speaker, when he started or she started the talk, then it's wonderful to be back again. Yeah, people are needing that, and it was a wonderful exchange that was happening. People did not even leave this place because there is this urgent need for a personal exchange where people look into each other's eyes and they talk to each other, etc. And I think if we could do something like this, that would really help, really bring the players together, and that they discuss things, and that they also form an alliance where they can approach, let's say, the important persons here on the European level, how to proceed in this way. Because these companies, they will need support. We are talking about something, we are talking about a possible next emergency situation. And that's always very difficult for the companies, let's say, to spend a lot of money for that. Even companies which are, let's say, established big companies which are very rich, it does not really work because we do not have a European BARDA program. HERA might go eventually in this direction, but at the moment it's not something like this, where, let's say, there's a lot of support from the government to get something going to solve a problem. That's still a little bit missing.
That's a very interesting idea from my perspective. We need to think about it. It's true that the face-to-face meetings make it easier to sometimes to explain, yeah, to say, to share. Yeah, I think that we need to think about it. Yes. Okay. Any other comment from the rest? I see, Lucia, your offer. Thank you very much. Okay, we will take it in account in the chat.
Lucia, thank you. It's not about creating another platform on this. It is actually to create the model which can be operational, which could help us to react faster at the EU, and that's why it's extremely important that the data of the companies working in the network are sort of integrated in a certain model that can detect and inform anyone who makes decisions on either capacity building or on needed support for diversification or needed support for research, or this is something that, you know, in kind of preparedness plan could fit in as an ongoing. So we are thinking about something that doesn't exist nowhere in the world. But that's why. But I think any ideas for this could inspire us here in the Commission as well in future HERA to act and have so it's not about platforms. It's really about getting a model which could help us to react faster and even predict potential risks, even variants. You know, all data of research, how variant are potential developers, so that people in the network are informed what kind of actions theoretically, potentially, they could act if, depending on the scenarios, how the situation develops. These are elements we would be happy to see.
And Marek, just to comment on that, I think the first thing to do is really to test the appetite and the goodwill of the people and companies to really share data and participate, contribute actually in an agile way, to your point, to this smart mapping. After, and to your point, and to the point of us and other people, clearly we can add the different dimensions on top of the one which is really looking to the supply chain. My view is, first, we need to test the feasibility of already what we have in the scope, which is the supply chain. If it works, if we could go forward, if it could be redeveloped at the scale of the European Union, there we can consider having other dimension looking forward. But we need, at least for the beginning, for the test phase, for the pilot phase, to have a very well-defined scope, in my view.
If we take the different mitigation strategies like stockpiling, supply diversification, contingent contracting, developing domestic capabilities, this is something that can inform, the model can inform for actions for this. I think the point of Aurora is very good. What kind of incentive, and this would be as well good to get information, what kind of incentive is for the people in order to be in the network? Yeah? So if funding, access to regulator, something that comes from you as well. Why would you be engaged in this? This would be very interesting to know from access
exactly.
to latest developments, and so forth. So, but our excellent point actually.
That's a mutual benefit approach, and that's what we are tested now with the first companies we have approached. Yeah.
I think that you are totally right. We need to find ways to involve them, benefits. Yeah, I think that is key. Okay, it's time to close. Thank you very much. I think that during the meeting we have had the speech from the State of the Union. Is that right, Nina? Would you share the link for it in the chat? Is our recommendation
Yes.
is to view it, okay, later, and that's a very, very important reference for us, okay, the European level. Thanks for your involvement, to the speakers, to Horst, to Aurora, to Sia, to everyone. And we continue working in this project. So don't hesitate to contact us, even privately if you want, directly to me, to Mark, to whoever, if you think that you can contribute. We are looking for it. Okay. Thank you very much, and see you soon, I hope.
Thank
you very much.
Speak
Thank you.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.